got the...
Doc Rivers is at midcourt right now. Tony Brothers. Look at Austin Rivers. Look at his son.
No, that's the best.
Look at his son saying, call him for a tee. Tee up, my dad. He's on the other team, and there it is. that might be SVP's best thing that he's seen all night. Doc's son begging for his dad to get a technical.
And now waving for him.
How good is that? Austin just looked at us. He's like, get him out of here. Get him out.
And he bought him dinner last night. That should hold some sway.
So Doc got ejected. Austin's like, call me, Dad. Call me.
What's good, truthers? This is the Ball Don't Lie podcast here on Penn State Sports Night.
How we doing?
I am Hunter Pitcoff, and I will not be taking David's mic and hitting him along the head with it. That is not what we're about here. This is a basketball podcast. We try to be safe and not go for each other's heads.
Yeah, hopefully you don't bash me with your helmet or my own helmet, Hunter. I would have to act like I did nothing wrong to start it in the first place and possibly press charges. So.
Oh, yeah. So, David, I know this is a basketball NBA podcast, but I do want to ask you, in my opinion, this is probably the Thursday night game against the Steelers when Myles Garrett literally ripped off Mason Rudolph's helmet and then hit him alongside the head. That's probably the craziest thing I've seen since probably the Mouse of the Palace.
Hunter, I think this is the worst incident of this nature that I've seen on a football field.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's as bad as Malice at the Palace, though. We're talking about fans getting
That's true.
beat up by these big athletes. So both really bad, but I think Malice at the Palace was ridiculous.
That's a good point. I do think, though, that, I mean, man, like, getting hit in the help, like, oh, my God. Yeah, I mean, Myles Garrett is definitely, they already said he's suspended for all of this year. The rest of this year, which stinks for the Browns because they actually have some easy games that they could sneak in the playoffs potentially if they win all of them. But anyway, let's stick to basketball here. Stay mellow, everybody. Carmelo Anthony's finally on a team. The Portland Trailblazers are giving him a shot. They signed him to a one-year deal yesterday. It was reported. David, how excited are you to see Melo back on the court?
Hunter, I'm ecstatic that Melo got signed. The other day, I was wondering, will this guy ever get signed? I think he still totally belongs in the NBA, and I know Portland has been trying to get him for a while, or there's been mutual interest there for a while, several years now, so I absolutely love the move.
It makes sense, too. Like, he kind of fits what they want, and he fits their offense a lot better than perhaps OKC or Houston, so I think it's a good situation for Melo, too. And a team that, you know, was in the Western Conference Finals last year, so this is a team that's trying to win now.
Absolutely. I think he can definitely come in and help them win games. If he comes off the bench, he could just be plugged right into that role, do his thing, and he doesn't have to worry about how it was on the Rockets where he'll get reprimanded if he accidentally shoots a two-pointer, which is ridiculous to me.
Yeah, I think he definitely wasn't playing well for Houston, but I think he was used too much as a scapegoat there. I think they had issues.
Absolutely.
It wasn't just him when they were not playing well. So, yeah. Now, let's go to his alma mater, not alma mater, but his former team, the New York Knicks. The whole David Fizdale situation, what's going on down there is just really confusing. And there's a lot of turmoil there, and I don't think it's going to have a good ending.
Hunter, to me, it's totally unfair to David Fizdale the way he's being treated right now. They're laying out the groundwork to eventually fire him. It's not his fault. Everything is wrong with this organization to me except David Fizdale. He comes from a good culture in the Miami Heat organization, and he seems like a solid coach, and I don't think it's his fault. It's the Knicks' upper front office, if you ask me.
Yeah, it's really interesting because when they signed David Fizdale, that was viewed as a huge win for the Knicks. It was potentially a turning point for the franchise. And yeah, you know, it's interesting just because when you look at the Knicks, they have been a team that hasn't been very good over the years. They finally get something good going, and then now it seems like they're going to mess it up once again. So I did like how the team rebounded last night against, it was Like the Mavericks, they've beaten the Mavericks twice now, which is kind of weird. Marcus Morris hit a game winner. The team looked really good out there, so it's good to see the players gravitating toward their head coach.
Yeah, definitely. And I really like R.J. Barrett. I think he's looking like a real NBA player, and he could be a star one day. But yeah, going back to Fizdale, it's just really frustrating because it's almost like fans and mainly their front office they're blaming Fizdale for the fact that Julius Randle is not Kevin Durant. It's like, come on, guys. And no, you didn't get Zion either, so get over it, win games, get better the right way.
Really? You're telling me that Bobby Portis is the next Zion Williamson, and that when they play Marcus Morris at point guard, that's not Kyrie Irving?
I guess so.
All right, I'm just curious. Anyway, so let's go to a star who did return and is not going anywhere, at least for the next 2 years, which is Paul George. He scored 33 points, making 58% of his shots in only 24 minutes. That's a pretty good debut, I'd say. I'm glad to see that the Clippers are really, not bearing any load on Paul George as they typically do with Kawhi Leonard, right?
Yeah, don't even get me started. We talked about the whole load management thing last. Yeah, you set me off. But last week we talked about the load management thing. Great debut as a Clipper for Paul George. Putting up the numbers he put up in just 24 minutes, super impressive. He doesn't appear to be rusty at all. We know this guy can get pretty much any shot he wants. But I'm really curious to see him play alongside Kawhi Leonard. Hopefully we get to see that this regular season and they don't just alternate resting them.
We'll see.
What do you think of Paul George's debut?
He did it. I mean, he did what he had to do. I mean, that's a great...
Did what he had to do.
Yeah, I mean, he did... I don't know what else more you can ask for him. He had a great day. Now, a guy who also had a great day a couple of days ago, which was Kobe White, the rookie for the Chicago Bulls. He hit 7 threes in the fourth quarter against... You guessed it, the Knicks. So I want to hear your thoughts on this, David. Is Kobe White perhaps the most overlooked rookie in this class right now?
Hunter, it's entirely possible that he is. Including myself, I overlooked Kobe White. I always thought he was a solid prospect, and I really like him. But I had no idea he was capable of hitting 7 threes in a fourth quarter. That is really something to be proud of. I believe that's a rookie record.
Yeah.
And I think he did it with Coach Roy Williams watching in the arena.
Oh, really? I did not know that.
Yeah, that's really cool to see. But yeah, I have to admit, I'm guilty of overlooking Kobe White. I think he can be a star in this league as well, moving into the future. I really like him on the Bulls. Yeah,
I do too. I mean, yeah, he's been a bright spot for that team, which is kind of struggling right now. And yep, let's go wrap up this Around the Association update. The Brooklyn Nets signed Iman Shumpert. That could be a good get potentially. Eric Gordon potentially missing up to 6 weeks for knee surgery. De'Aaron Fox out 3 to 4 weeks with a bad ankle sprain. Caris LeVert out several weeks after having surgery to repair a ligament damage in his right thumb. And just reported recently, Avery Bradley out 1 to 2 weeks with a hairline fracture in his leg. That one confused me a bit because I've watched all the Laker games and not once has he gotten hurt in any of these games, so I have no idea where this hairline fracture came from.
Yeah, a little interesting there.
I was like, what?
Not sure what the deal is.
Found out in Big Bowl, David.
Yeah.
It's my happy place.
I don't know what the deal is with Avery Bradley with that injury, so hopefully he gets back quickly and he's able to be plugged back into that lineup because he's an important piece for that Laker team.
Yeah, he has played really well. But yeah, I was at Big Bowl, David. That's my place. And the fact that Ryan Lamb had our fellow colleague of Penn State Sports Today had to break that news to me was kind of upset. I love Big Bowl. That's like, heaven on earth, if you will. So that a little Szechuans. Anyway, as we always say, David, how many teams get left behind here?
Absolutely no team gets left behind here on the Ball Don't Lie podcast.
Not a team at all, and nor do players either. We're going to give our weekly players of the week. We usually do 3. So, David, who is first on the list?
First on my list is D'Angelo Russell on the Golden State Warriors. Obviously, with the Warriors, they have lost everybody just about to injury, to free agency. You name it, they've lost them. And with exception to Pascal, D'Angelo Russell has stepped up and put up some monster performances, especially in the last week. I'm not sure where he's going to take this team this year, but Really liking what D'Angelo Russell's doing right now.
Yeah, D'Angelo Russell has been on fire. You're absolutely right. I'm going to go with another lefty guard, a guy who is leading the league in scoring at 38.2 points per game. It's James freaking Harden. The reason why I put him on my list.
38.
Yeah, and
Wow.
I mean, I don't know if he's going to sustain that, but he's gotten pretty close. I think he averaged like 35, 36 last year, so not out of the realm of possibility. But Houston, the most important thing is they're on a 5-game win streak. They're starting to figure it out. Everyone's starting to fit into place, which is very good for this team, a team that I've been critical of on this podcast. But now they're winning, and I'm going to give props where it's due. James Harden, his last 3 games during this week, he scored 42 points against the Bulls, 39 points against the Hornets, and then 47 against the Clippers. I watched that game, and then Russell Westbrook made that comment about Patrick Beverley after the fact, saying he's not about defense, he just fakes it. So he's all hype. I don't think that's true. Patrick Beverley is really good on defense, in my opinion. But yeah, that just shows you how good James Harden is.
Yeah, of course. James Harden, I think he just rolls out of bed and he can score 40 points like it's nothing. And I think he's more than capable of averaging as much or more than he did last year. I think he was 36 points a game, but I agree that it was only a matter of time until the Rockets start getting some momentum going and heating up here.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And again, we can't overlook the greatness of James Harden. He is, in my opinion, one of the best scorers I've ever seen. So, David, who's number 2 on the list?
Next up on my list is Andrew Wiggins.
Oh, my God, I have him too.
Yeah, we always end up with the same people.
Yeah.
Hunter and I try not to tell each other.
No, I did. I did not know who was on your list.
Yeah, beforehand, we don't really tell each other who's on our lists for that week. So Andrew Wiggins is apparently both of our number 2 guy on our list. This guy's been putting up monster performances as well, scoring 40 points in several games in the high 30s. Because we know that Cat really needed some help in the scoring department. So if the Timberwolves want to be a playoff team, Andrew Wiggins is going to have to keep up this really high production.
You're 100% right, David. He really does. Do I think he's going to? No. But just to be honest, but I will say head coach Ryan Saunders has done a great job finding the sweet spot for Andrew Wiggins in his offense. I think now playing Karl Anthony Towns on the outside on the perimeter, plus playing Robert Covington at the 4, rather than the 3. That opens up the driving lanes for Andrew Wiggins. That's always been his bread and butter his entire career, is getting to the basket. And also, Andrew Wiggins, he's done a good job just being more engaged and not just scoring. I heard the other day someone say he's allergic to assists, just does not like passing the ball. But he has at least 5 assists in his last 4 games, also 4 rebounds each of his last 4 games as well. So he's actually contributing in other categories, other departments of the game, which is important because if you're a guy like Andrew Wiggins who's taken 1 overall, you got to do more than just score. And he's scoring efficiently, so I got to give credit where it's due.
He definitely deserves credit. That is that efficiency that you look for. I know it's a small sample size, but I hope he can keep it up. I think Wiggins is a special talent, and I just want to see him put in that work and become a great player.
Yeah, we'll see if he's all hype or he's actually going to keep it up this year.
We
now,
will
David,
see.
who is last but not least, on your list?
The third and final name on my list, last but not least, is Nikola Jokic on the Denver Nuggets. Hopefully it's not the same guy you picked.
It's not. We're good.
Yeah, so this Nuggets team is dangerous. It is really hard to go there in Denver and play this team. So you look at their team, and they're a very complete team, but without Jokic, they are not the team that they can become. And he's a great closer. He's hitting a couple game-winning shots, probably the best passing big man in basketball.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just, I see something new from this guy every time. So Jokic is my player of the week. He's been the reason that they're winning a lot of these games.
Yeah, other than the fact that he's 7 foot, he looks like your typical guy that you go to the bar with or something like that. But yeah, my third guy on my list is going to be Jaylen Brown. He did not sell out for the bag, which I respect. He's actually played better ever since getting that contract extension. The Celtics, who did lose Gordon Hayward as well, they're going to be losing him for a while because he broke his hand, I believe.
So unfortunate.
It is unfortunate. Gordon Hayward was playing well, but Jaylen Brown, he's been able to keep him moving regardless. His last 3 games, all of which have been wins for the Celtics, who have the best record in basketball right now. He scored 30 against the Spurs, 25 against Dallas, and 22 against the Wizards. He's also shot at least 40% in all 3 of these games as well, which is really important. So Jaylen Brown is getting production, and he's doing it efficiently as well.
I was waiting for this out of Jaylen Brown. I know he has it in him, and he's a really talented player. He's really got good length and size for that Boston lineup. So I don't know if it's because Gordon Hayward is out now, but seeing him step up big time is really good to see if you're a Celtics fan.
Yeah, let me ask you this, David. Could this be addition by subtraction for the Celtics with Hayward? Not to judge Hayward at all, because it's not necessarily because of him, but there's so many wings on this team and so many scores that perhaps limiting that and having a guy like Jaylen Brown in your lineup who's definitely a better defender and a guy who's, more maybe at this point a little more well-rounded on both sides of the ball than Gordon Hayward, is that actually going to help the Celtics potentially now that they have more defined roles on this team? Because that was a big issue last year.
A very interesting question. I didn't really think of it that way, but now that you mention it, it could be some addition by subtraction. Gordon Hayward put up, I believe he had his career high before the injury, and he was playing really well, but I don't know, maybe Jaylen Brown just fits better in that starting lineup, and I don't know, maybe when Hayward comes back, they're going to have to figure it out with Hayward being added into the lineup again. So
yeah.
I don't know what it's going to look like later in the season for Boston.
Yeah, there's only one basketball on the court. Spoiler alert. Sorry if you've never watched the game before. If you haven't, you're probably not listening to this podcast. Now, let's go to some little hypothetical ball don't lie trade machine here. There was a rumor that was leaked this week saying that the Magic are trying to make a move for DeMar DeRozan of the Spurs. He's in a contract year. Do you think that this trade, in theory, would make sense for both parties, being DeRozan and the Magic?
I suppose. I think it's a bit of a surprise seeing this trade. I never pictured DeMar DeRozan possibly going to the Orlando Magic. I think DeRozan would fit really well on the Orlando Magic, and I would like to see that. But I don't know what the Spurs would want in return from the Magic if that trade goes down. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like they would...
DeRozan still has pretty high value. He's a very, very solid player.
I'm just thinking, what would the Magic give up for him? Maybe...
I don't know. Would the Spurs want draft picks?
You think Mo Bamba is on the table, like a Jonathan Isaac? Do you think that the Magic would be willing to give that up? Or maybe Aaron Gordon?
Who knows? It could be any of those guys.
That is interesting. Or maybe they go with Vucevic or something. I don't think that he'd be in the deal, but... Yeah, definitely draft picks or something, because he is on a contract year, so if the Spurs are willing to get rid of him, and there's a team like the Magic, I'm sure there's other teams as well that would like DeMar DeRozan's services, and maybe you pull the trigger,
Yeah, and if I'm the Orlando Magic and I have a chance at getting DeMar DeRozan, I think it could really help my team. You just don't want to give up too much for him, but yeah. I totally would go for DeMar DeRozan if I was the Orlando Magic.
Yeah, especially knowing that he's going to be a free agent in the coming offseason. They'd get his bird rights, of course, if he was traded to the team. However, don't completely sell out for a guy that may or may not be there next year. So,
right.
Yep, now we're going to come up. We both came up with 2 trades, hypothetical trades that could potentially happen. So, David, what is your first trade?
All right, first up, and I saw this on social media a couple weeks ago, and I don't know if there's any real possibility it could happen, but if the Warriors decide to blow up their current core, I think a lot of teams would want and be interested in Draymond Green.
Wow.
Helping them win. I know. It's crazy to think about, but I think a team, and I thought of this before Carmelo ended up on Portland last night. I think Draymond Green plugging into Portland would be really interesting, and it could definitely help them a lot defensively and could be that last piece that they need. And I'm not sure what Portland would give up to get him, but I could totally see Draymond Green being added to the Portland Trailblazers lineup.
Man, that's a good trade. It's kind of funny you said that, because I have a Golden State Warrior as one of my trade candidates, and I also have another player getting traded to the Blazers. So which one do you want to hear first?
Let's hear the other Golden State Warrior. Who is it?
So this trade candidate is probably a little more obvious than Draymond Green. That's D'Angelo Russell. Right. When they traded Kevin Durant because they knew he was going to get to the Nets, that was a great job by Bob Myers to actually get D'Angelo Russell. I think he's more of an asset for them. Really good player, and the Warriors know that, but you kind of think when Curry and Klay Thompson are back, how is that going to work with D'Angelo Russell? Probably doesn't. So a team that I have him going to is the Minnesota Timberwolves.
Wow.
It seems like that they could be that point guard away from potentially being really good, especially if Andrew Wiggins keeps it up. Karl-Anthony Towns and D'Angelo Russell are like best friends, so that would keep him happy as well.
That's right.
And it makes sense because financially, I think they could pull it off, even without trading Wiggins potentially. They could trade Jeff Teague, who's on an expiring deal, which the Warriors would probably like expiring deal because then they'd have cap space, which every team likes cap space. And then they can also trade Gorgie Jang, who again, and then they can trade draft picks as well. But if you're Timberwolves, who I don't think are rebuilding, I think they're kind of caught in the middle. Getting a guy like D'Angelo Russell, who A, is a young cornerstone for this team, and B, a guy who could potentially be available and a guy that's going to definitely improve your team as well.
D'Angelo Russell is looking so good right now, especially coming off last year, that first All-Star appearance. He had kind of a reset to his career after leaving LA and that whole situation. So it's really
off the phone.
Right. So it's really great to see D'Angelo Russell playing really well. And I totally agree with you. He could really be that piece that Portland needs. And I think the chemistry would be there as well for sure. And his ceiling is so high. He can do it all. And not trying to compare him to Steph Curry, but he has sort of the same role, and he's a solid 6'5". Like, he can do quite a bit.
Yeah, you're right, David. He's, again, a really good passer, really good shooter, can score in a lot of different ways. He's not an athlete point guard. He's a below-the-rim point guard like a Steph Curry. So he's not a guy who's going to beat you with athleticism. He's going to beat you with skill and fundamentals. And I'm still stuck on that Draymond Green thing. Wow, like, imagine the Warriors trading Draymond Green. I feel like that'd be nuts.
Yeah, that trade deadline, man, every year crazy things happen.
That's true.
So moving on to my other possible trade, this is another crazy one, and it would involve a Western Conference team trading away one of their cornerstones to an Eastern Conference team. I think that the Boston Celtics could really use and definitely want a Clint Capella on their team.
Yeah, that would make a lot of sense for them.
Right, so as we know, Boston is the void of a defensive big man. They have Enes Kanter. They have Tice. They have Taco, who's not really – I don't think he's playing yet. So they really need somebody like a Clint Capella, and depending on what the Rockets would be asking for him, which I think would be a lot, I could definitely see that working out for the Celtics. But as we've talked about before, I think Capella is the perfect center for the Rockets.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure they'd be so quick to give him up. What do you think of that?
I agree with you. I don't know how quick they would be to give him up. He'd be a great fit for the Celtics because that's like the perfect big man that they could use 100%. However, it seems like the Rockets are also rolling right now, and Clint Capella, again, is one of the most important players on that team. They really don't have another guy that can replicate what he does, per se. I mean, it's obviously James Harden's better, but at least you have Russell Westbrook who can also do stuff when he's off the court. When Clint Capella's off the court, it's like, oh, no, we do not have a guy that can do that.
Yeah,
so,
like P.J. Tucker is their center when Capella's not on the court, and he's like 6'5", so that's not going to work.
Yeah, the Rockets, if they want cap flexibility, that may be the move. However, we'll see. I mean, he's been on trade talks before. He's not untouchable. I 100% agree with that. But yeah, we'll see. I think if he were to get traded, the Celtics could be an awesome destination. Now, I have a guy who's but he is on a contract year. And I'm not as confident about this after Melo got there, but I still think it could happen regardless because of how good this player is, in my opinion. And that is Blake Griffin to the Trailblazers.
Oh, my goodness.
Because it looks like the Pistons are pretty bad. They're not playing very well right now. If you added Blake Griffin to a team with Damian Lillard and C.J. McCollum, I mean, you could be talking a real contender in the Western Conference.
Absolutely. I never even thought of that. That's really crazy. Man, I'm just picturing Blake Griffin on that Rip City squad. And they had an injury at that position recently. Is that right?
Yeah, Zach Collins went down.
So if Blake Griffin steps into that spot, I think it would be amazing for Portland, but I have no idea what Detroit would do.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. I wonder if I feel like Anthony Simons would probably be the guy that gets traded. So and the Portland Trailblazers think this guy is the next Michael Jordan. So he may not. We'll see if they'd be willing to do that. But I've also thought another guy who I thought was Kevin Love to the Trailblazers as well. That's been talked about a while, especially because he's from Portland and he's from Oregon. So he's from the area. But yeah, Blake Griffin I thought was a little more exciting. So and he's on a contract year, and I'm sure that he's not on a contract. Is he? No, he's not. But
he's getting a lot of money.
He's getting a lot of money. Andre Drummond's on a contract year, sorry. And I'm just saying that because it's like if the Pistons are wanting to blow it up or keep it together, why not get rid of both those guys and just either completely rebuild or go all in? So I think that trading Blake Griffin to the Trailblazers, a team that kind of needs a front court player, would make a lot of sense for both parties.
Right, and I know the Blazers acquired Carmelo the other night, but I would really love to see them add that next piece that would really get them over the hump. I really like the Portland Trailblazers.
Yeah, I mean, you can have both Melo and Griffin. There's no issue there at all. Now, the Trailblazers, who are not playing great, but they're at least a comparable team and a team that can make the playoffs. We're going to talk about the reasons to watch. Insert bad team here, because if your team sucks, don't worry, because we're going to give you reasons here. Why to be excited for games, even if you know the outcome before it even starts. We're going to start with the New York Knicks, David. They're 3-9. They actually did just win last night. But, David, what are reasons that Knicks fans should actually turn on MSG and actually watch a freaking game?
So I love how you set up that question. So
very casually.
I have an answer, and it's one name, and his name is RJ Barrett.
It's a good answer.
He is the present and future of this Knicks team. I really think the kid's going to be a star. I wasn't 100% on him going into this year. I had to see what he would bring actually playing in the NBA, but he looks really solid. So the only reason currently I could think of to watch the New York Knicks, definitely RJ Barrett.
That'd probably be the only reason I would watch the Knicks personally, because I am a Duke fan and I like RJ Barrett a lot. But I kind of like their team. They play hard.
I
mean,
like Kevin Knox as well.
Kevin Knox is talented. They got Fraggy Smokes, Frank Nagina. They're still waiting for the French Prince of Bel-Air to do something. Maybe that's why the Knicks are going to fire David Fizdale, because he doesn't give him enough minutes.
They better not. Don't fire David Fizdale. It's not his fault.
They got Julius Randle. He's a good player.
Yeah, he's okay.
Yeah, I like Randle. They got, all those power forwards. They got Taj Gibson and Bobby Portis and Marcus Morris.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of power forwards. Nice big physical team. We'll see if they run in all fours in their starting lineup one day.
Nonetheless, a fun team to watch, though. They are fun to watch.
They play hard. Dennis Smith Jr. could give you a cool dunk every once in a while.
Oh, yeah.
You can watch Elfrid Payton, I guess. But the Knicks, it's not that bad. They got some good young guys that I'd be curious to watch. It could be worse, because you can be the Washington Wizards, who are 2-7. And yes, they got Bradley Beal, but that's about it.
Yeah, obviously Bradley Beal is the guy over there in Washington. I wonder if they're even going to keep him long term, because he's a very valuable asset, and they might completely blow it up. They're paying John Wall all their money as well, who's not even playing this year. He's getting injured in his own house. But I do think they got a very good piece in the draft in Rui Hachimura. Is that how you say it?
You got it.
So I think he's a really solid piece on that team. So yeah, I think they're a fun team to watch as well, even though they're not very good. I like the rookie Rui Hachimura. Bradley Beal's awesome to watch as well, and I think John Wall, he's not going to be back until next year, but I think he'll still be a really good player once he comes back.
Yeah, I think the most curious thing with this team is how they handle the Bradley Beal situation. They signed him long-term, which is a win either way. Either they keep him or not.
He deserved it.
What they have is a guy who they can trade. They can trade Bradley Beal and get a lot in return. He's a really good player. My opinion, should have been All-NBA last year, but that's good. And I guess as a Wizards fan, you can at least watch him temporarily. But other than that, Rui Hachimura is like the only guy who I would. You know what? I hope Isaiah Thomas does well. That's the other guy, because I hope for Isaiah Thomas he's able to really have a bounce back year and prove to teams that he's still a really good player in this league. So if I'm to watch a Wizards game, that's why I'm rooting for IT.
That's right. I almost forgot about IT, and once upon a time he put up 30 points a game, and it wasn't super duper long ago. So IT, another reason to tune in to the Washington Wizards.
Now, one team that has not been playing as well, a team that I was really high on, was the Orlando Magic. They're 4-7. They're currently, I think, 8th in the East, so it's not as bad. But that being said, there's only 6 teams over 500 in the Eastern Conference right now, which is a big yikes. But, David, I want to know, if you're an Orlando Magic fan, should you be optimistic for this team? Are they going to turn it around?
I think this team can turn it around. I really like Coach Steve Clifford on that squad and in general, but I think they have so many pieces. There's no way that they can't hope for a playoff appearance again this year. Markelle Fultz coming in, Mo Bamba is back, and Jonathan Isaac, he's getting better all the time. We talk, no team gets left behind here, but Definitely
Isaac.
not the Magic. We talk about the Magic a lot.
Jonathan Isaac is probably driving the trade for the ball don't lie.
Oh, yeah. So I think the Magic can turn it around. I'm not sure why they got off to this poor start. Do you have any ideas why they're struggling right now?
Their offense is just not clicking. Nikola Vucevic needs to step up, and maybe that's why I want to trade for a guy like DeMar DeRozan to get some spark plug. Also, they paid Terrence Ross all this money. He was probably one of the better six-mans last year, and he hasn't done anything either. So, if you're the Magic, you need more offensive production, and because you can play great defense, which they do, but you're not going to win this league if you can't get anything on that end of the court.
That's right, and I'm wondering just if they could just put together what they put together last year, which was a solid season, especially towards the end there. And they should be able to just build on that because they didn't lose anyone. They are building with these young assets, and I think Steve Clifford is solid, as I've alluded to. So I think the Magic will turn it around. Yeah,
most definitely. A team that you just added to the rundown just now, David, is the Chicago Bulls. They're 4-8. They are not off to a great start. Had high expectations entering the season. The reason I didn't put them on the list originally is just because, I do think there is some fun guys to watch on this team. They're kind of one of those hipster teams where you're like, yeah, the Bulls. They got Kobe White and Zach LaVine and Larry Mark and all these guys that shoot threes and stuff. So, David, how about you talk more about what makes the Bulls fun to watch?
We a couple weeks ago, or maybe last week on the podcast, we talked about players that we think are the most fun to watch, and the first name that came to my head, and this is in the whole league, Zach LaVine, I think is one of the most fun guys to watch in this league. He is amazing, just athletically and what he brings, and I really like this Bulls team. I think that they can turn it around as well. I'll say that about most of the teams in the East because it's so wide open, but like you mentioned, Zach LaVine, Lauri Markkanen coming back. He was banged up last year. And I think you said you're not super high on Chris Dunn, but I really like Chris Dunn. I think he's a solid player, and he'll improve too. And they have just so many of these young athletic guys that are really fun to watch.
You can't forget about Thomas Satoransky, the guy, and Wendell Carter as well. Yeah, so the Bulls, not very good in the win column, but maybe still a fun team to watch on League Pass anyway. Now, let's go to the Western Conference. The first team to 10 losses this year, and believe it or not, is the Golden State Warriors. They are 2-10, not good, not ideal. David, is there any reason with all these injuries to actually watch the Warriors play?
I suppose if you're a Warriors fan and you're looking at the future, like we said earlier, not sure what they're going to do with D'Angelo Russell, not sure what they're going to do with Draymond Green. I like Pascal. He's looking good as a young player. But the Warriors can go one of several ways right now. They could completely tank for the rest of the year, hope to get a great lottery pick, or they can wait for people to come back and hopefully make another playoff appearance this year, even though they are off to a bad start. It's still really early, but I don't know. I'm not sure what they're going to do. I don't know how much longer Steve Kerr even wants to stay there at this point.
Wow, that's interesting. I think they're going to throw in the towel. I do.
That's how it feels right now.
That's the vibe right now. And I will say this, because the Warriors fans, if you're listening right now, don't be crybabies. You've been the best team in the NBA for the last 5 years. If you're actually a Warriors fan, you better watch these games, because as a Laker fan, for example, and you a Sixer fan, we had to sit and watch our teams tank for 5 straight years, and now our teams are doing good. So if we can sit through those hard times, you better too. So sit down and be humble, all right? I don't want to hear it from you Warrior fans, feel bad for us, Steph Curry's hurt. Be quiet. You've had so much luck health-wise over the last 5 years, which, they've executed on it, but nevertheless, you really haven't had that many issues on that end of the
Couldn't
thing.
agree more.
So now let's go to a team that I think couldn't be fun to watch, which is Oklahoma City Thunder. I don't expect them to make the playoffs or anything, but there's some guys on this team that are definitely worth keeping an eye on.
Yeah, the first name that comes to my mind is Chris Paul, of course. Great player, one of the greatest point guards of all time, if you ask me. And let me just say, Diallo is ridiculous with his leaping ability and just throwing it down. I love Diallo. And I'm one of Steven Adams' biggest fans, too. I think he's amazing.
Big fan.
Yeah, I've always liked the Oklahoma City Thunder, all the way back to their Seattle Supersonic days. So I would definitely watch this team. I think they're really entertaining to watch. as far as being a good team, I don't think they're going to make the playoffs this year, but that doesn't mean I wouldn't watch them on TV.
Yeah, David's actually old enough to remember the Sonics. I'm just kidding. But yeah, no, I like one guy you didn't mention, Shea Gilgeous-Alexander.
That's right.
Who is
your
just,
guy.
He's my guy. He's so good. He's a stud. He made my top 50 list, David.
I saw that.
He did. He made, and he's pretty high up there too, because I think that he is just terrific. Really good player. Guy I was insanely high on entering the draft, and that, not gonna lie, that is one I got right. So yeah, the Thunder are a fun team to watch. They at least play hard and they try, and their fans show up. They're loyal fans. They still stuck around.
Those are some of the best fans in the
They really
all
are.
of NBA.
Even though that was it. Oh no, it was never mind. I was thinking of Utah because I was thinking of the Thunder last year with Westbrook. I was like, no, wait, Westbrook got cursed out in Utah by like that racist guy.
That's right.
Yeah, the Mormons are a little bit more racist than what we thought. So it's anyway, no cap. We're gonna talk about the Kings here, who we thought would be a really exciting team, but then Marvin Bagley gets hurt, and then De'Aaron Fox gets hurt. So, David, if you're a Kings fan right now, are you just used to them being terrible, so you'll watch anyway, or are you just not gonna even bother?
Yeah, last year looked like a real building block, I guess you could call it, for the Sacramento Kings. They were really making strides last year. Before that, they were one of the worst teams in the league. I think they were one spot left out of the playoffs last year, and they almost made it. But, yeah, I don't think De'Aaron Fox is going to be out for as long as Marvin Bagley is. I think it's 3 to 4 weeks, it says here. So they'll definitely miss him for that month or so that he's gone. I'm not sure when Marvin Bagley's going to be back. I'm not even sure Marvin Bagley being out is the reason that they're struggling so hard. I think they'd be struggling either way. But nonetheless, a super fun team to watch. How do you feel about the Kings?
Yeah, it's a little hard to watch right now. I mean, you're just going to watch Buddy Hield jack up 30 shots a game. You're just going to have to be patient.
He wanted his money.
And wait for De'Aaron Fox and Bagley to come back, because there's just not a whole lot there, unless you love just seeing Dwayne Dedman just, 3-and-D it up.
Dedman, baby.
Or, I don't know, like, do they even play Harry Giles? The Kings are the one team that I've, honestly, I really haven't even paid attention. Or I haven't not paid attention, but I haven't even watched a single Kings game really at all. Just, some recaps, but that's about it. They're right now just not that interesting, which is unfortunate because I thought they'd be really exciting entering the year.
Yeah, I remember you were really high on them going into the season. It's a little disappointing seeing how they've performed so far, but I don't know. I think once these guys, it's just going to be a long year for them, but I think once they come back from these injuries, I think that they're going to get some momentum going and heat up. But I think that would definitely be next year instead of the second half of this year.
Yeah, definitely. Now, David, we're going to talk about some teams that are maybe good and maybe bad, but teams that we think are overrated and underrated. Simple enough. Not a whole lot of explaining to do there. So, David, give me, do you want to give your overrated or underrated team first? I'll let you decide.
Well, I guess we'll start out with the overrated teams. I think that's more fun, and then we'll say who's underrated after that.
All right, go ahead.
All right, so I think the current most overrated team in the NBA right now is the Minnesota Timberwolves. They got off to a really hot start. We talked about Cat dominating to start the season, putting up crazy numbers. Got into that little, whatever you want to call it, altercation with Joel Embiid.
Whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, he was only suspended for 2 games, so that doesn't really factor in that much. And we talked about Andrew Wiggins. He's really stepping it up lately, playing really well. And I don't think it lasts. I think as soon as they get to the playoffs, it doesn't matter what seed they are. I just don't think they're a playoff team at all, Hunter.
Do you think that they get in this year?
I think that they will make the playoffs, but I don't think they're going to win a playoff series.
Yeah, well, I definitely don't think that either. But, yeah, I don't know if they even make the playoffs. I'm not sure yet. I gotta see a little more games. I didn't pick them entering the year, but right now it seems like there's some teams struggling, so it'll be interesting if the teams behind them in the standings end up picking it up, because the Clippers are behind them right now. The Trailblazers are behind them in the standings. You're figuring that these teams are eventually going to, start rattling off some games eventually and drop the Timberwolves naturally under. But they could potentially make the playoffs. I mean, it all depends on, how everybody else around Towns plays, in my opinion, because Towns is obviously really good. I don't think he's overrated. But, yeah, my overrated team, I think it's going to piss you off a bit because you were talking about how good they were before. And not because I don't think they're good, but I think that teams are starting to figure them out a bit, and that's the Denver Nuggets. I think they're overrated.
Tell me why.
And not because I don't think they're bad, because they're very good. Definitely a top 10 team in the league, no questions asked, and maybe even higher. Jokic he's had his moments where he's played really good and hit game winners and stepped up clutch. I'm not, questioning how good Jokic is, but I need to see more from him. I really do. Like, I thought that people were saying that he was better than Joel Embiid and Anthony Davis, calling him the best big man in basketball and potentially an MVP candidate this year. But it doesn't seem like it to me that way. He sometimes just seems disengaged out there. And as a leader of a basketball team, you got to be better. I think we all expected Jamal Murray to also take a jump this year. He really hasn't. And I don't know. They're still a really good team, but I feel like teams are starting to figure out. They're not sneaking up on anybody anymore. And as a result, I think that they're a little more vulnerable, if you will.
Hunter, I can totally see where you're coming from with that take. Talking more about Jokic, I do think it was an overreaction for people to say he's the best big man in basketball, mainly last year with the way he played. The man gets a couple triple-doubles, the team plays well, people act like he's the best in the league all of a sudden. He's not. I know I had him as one of my players of the week. I noticed that he just did a really good job closing for them in a lot of their recent games that they won, but I totally agree with a lot that you said. His numbers are not as impressive as you would hope for, and he does look a little disengaged at times. I have to agree with you on that. So I don't know what to make of the Nuggets right now. I mean, if Jokic can start putting together some really strong performances, Jamal Murray, if he can play like he played in the playoffs last year, I think this team could be really dangerous. And I've mentioned Michael Porter Williams. Michael Porter Jr. Please excuse that mistake.
A lot of light skins out here.
Yeah, so I think once he gets going, this team is going to be one of the best teams in the league. But I totally see where you're coming from with thinking the Nuggets are a little overrated.
Yeah, I mean, they're 8-3. This is a good basketball team. I'm not saying Nuggets stink, but yeah, I just think that
it'll be hard to do what they did last year.
Yeah, and Nikola Jokic, I don't even think he's averaging even close to 20 points per game right now. And I'm not a big number guy, but at the same time, come on, man.
17 points a game or so.
You got to do better than that. Really, people are crowning you as, one of the best players in the league, and understandably so, but, you got to bring it every night. It can't be just the playoffs, because you got to get there first,
I couldn't agree more, and the guy looks like he put on even more weight, which is just ridiculous, because last year he was huge. I feel like he can't get up and down the court sometimes.
Yeah, he definitely, being in shape has been one of the biggest,
that slows down their entire offense.
Yeah, which is really predicated on a lot of up and down play as well. And, Jokic obviously, of course, plays a ton of minutes on that team, and he should play a ton of minutes because he's the best player, for crying out loud. Now, we just both did our overrated teams, right?
That's right.
We did. So, David, give us your underrated team.
Okay, my underrated team, and I think you'll like this, Hunter, because you were kind of high on them coming into the season. I think the Pelicans are underrated, a lot because their record. They got off to a lousy start this year. Obviously, no Zion yet. He should be back soon. I'm not sure how much longer it is at this point, couple weeks probably. But I think once Zion comes back, this team will know who they have as a group. It'll help them a lot out. It'll help them out a lot on the defensive side of the ball, having Zion back. And I think Brandon Ingram is really coming into his own.
Oh, yeah.
So this team has a lot of bright things to look forward to. And I want to see Lonzo have a really good year, too. So I think the Pelicans are a little underrated right now. I know they got off to a lousy start, but I think they can turn it around, especially when Zion returns.
Yeah, Zion, let's not forget, this is a big piece that they're missing. The number one pick in the draft.
Who everyone wanted and was tanking for.
Everyone was tanking for him, once-in-a-generation type talent, as many would say. Brandon Ingram has been a stud this year. He's been so good for them.
I love it.
He has the ultimate green light. They are not slowing him down. They're like, hey, this is even Drew Holiday, who's a very formidable player, a former All-Star in this league, all defensive guy, is literally like, you're the guy. You're the scorer.
Drew Holiday, too.
So to see Brandon Ingram really have that confidence, adding a Zion Williamson to that mix is only going to add another element to this team. So I agree. I do think the Pelicans are underrated. They're not performing great. Defensively, they're atrocious. They are so bad. But I do think that there is a beacon of light for this team, especially because they're all young. There's a lot of new pieces, and, usually those young new guys, it takes them a little bit to eventually, play together. Now,
It's also a long season.
Now, I also just got a recent news in, nothing big, but Anthony Davis is expected to play Friday against the Kings, which is today, unless you're listening to this on Saturday or whatever, but he's expected to play because he didn't miss a game against the Warriors because his shoulder was a little messed up and on a back-to-back. I wouldn't call that load management personally. Like, they won by like 25 against the Warriors. They really didn't need Anthony Davis in that one, but anyway, let's now go to my underrated team, and I feel like they're going to talk about a little bit more now, but it's a team with the best record in the NBA, and that's the Boston Celtics. I mean, I had my doubts on this team entering the year. Seems like as of now, they're proving me wrong. They are 9-1, which is pretty remarkable when you think about it. This team, you got Kemba Walker, who now is again, looking like a winner, which, he wasn't able to show in Charlotte. He's putting up the same numbers that he was on a losing team as he is now with a winning team, which I think does show character and shows you that he's legit. This isn't a guy that just puts up bad numbers or good numbers on a bad team. Jason Tatum's taking that step forward. We just mentioned Jaylen Brown taking that step forward, and it seems like now that all these guys know their roles and they're playing together, which is not all Kyrie Irving's fault because I think everyone was playing their own basketball last year. Everyone was just trying to make a name for themselves, but now they're playing team basketball, and as a result, they're winning a ton of games.
Absolutely. I was low on Boston coming into this year. Perhaps you could label some bias onto me for that, being a Sixers fan. But still, I think the concerns are there for their defense. I believe it's the first time in a decade that the Lakers and the Celtics are respectively number one in their conferences.
Yeah, probably.
Which is crazy to see. But yeah, I think Tatum is taking that step up. I think he's going to become that superstar eventually. Jaylen Brown, he's stepping it up. Kemba Walker, he's a bucket and almost impossible to guard. He dropped I think it was a 60-piece on Jimmy Butler last year.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. So I'm a little surprised that they're number one, and I guess you could say I underrated the Celtics.
Yeah, no, they're playing really well this year, and I think that the media is just now starting to pick up on the fact that, Celtics are really good. So now, David, we're both pretty smart guys, at least when it comes to basketball, but we are going to give terrible takes right now. These aren't takes that we believe, by the way. Just a disclaimer. We don't necessarily believe these, or we may believe some. The takes all right, I don't know how you wrote yours, but the way I wrote mine, I wrote in the perspective of, like, somebody who doesn't know basketball would say this. I don't know if that's how you wrote yours or...
Somewhat, yeah. Someone who doesn't follow basketball super closely and they just assume things based on what they might hear or something like that.
Yeah, so that's basically how I wrote mine as well. So, David, what is your first terrible take here?
So I actually heard this one about an hour ago. A friend of mine who... His number one sport's not basketball.
So wait, someone said this?
Yeah, someone said this,
all right.
And he is saying to me, David, the Sixers just need to trade Ben Simmons. I'm sorry, what? Everyone needs to relax. And then the girl, a friend of ours, Anna, who was standing there, she's like, yeah, they need to trade him. And I'm like, are you both kidding me right now? Ben Simmons is great at everything except shooting. And yes, I know it's shooting and he has to get better at it, and we thought he was going to be attempting all these three-pointers this year. But look, Ben Simmons is putting up Magic Johnson numbers here early in his career. If the Sixers trade him, I will lose my entire mind. They cannot do that, and I just think they have to have him. When he's not playing in the game, they look lost.
I will say this, David. Is the marriage between Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons perfect? Absolutely not. But to say that the Sixers should trade away a guy who they invested with their first overall pick, just gave him a max contract extension, a guy who made his All-Star debut in his second year in the league, in my opinion, should have made his rookie year as well. That's ridiculous. And the crazy thing is that everybody was talking about this over the summer, like, and all over ESPN and stuff like that. Everyone was saying, "Oh man, Ben Simmons or Joel Embiid has to go. This is not going to work for the Sixers." Look, I get it's not a perfect fit, but you make it work. When you have two generation type talents like that on the team, you make it work. And Anna, she is one of our executive producers for Penn State Sports Night, but I will definitely have to respectfully disagree with that take that she gave right there.
Yeah, and I am willing to acknowledge that, yes, the marriage with Embiid and Simmons, it's not perfect. You can't always have a perfect pairing of your two top players, but it could also be a lot worse. So, a lot worse. Like, you could be the Pistons with Blake Griffin and Andre Drummond, and that's all you got. So
right.
I think it's ridiculous to think that Ben Simmons should be traded. That is just total nonsense to me.
Yeah, I agree. That one doesn't make a lot of sense. So now I'm gonna go with a take here that I think this take would be an overreaction from Raptor fans that are probably a little salty right now. So my take is, and quote, the Raptors are better off without Kawhi Leonard.
Oh, stop it. Get out of here.
Yeah, I'm super high on the Raptors. But I don't think they're better with without Kawhi Leonard, of course. Pascal Siakam has been insane this year, and I think he's proving why he's really, really good. However, I can't go out of my way to actually be like, yeah, the Raptors, they don't need Kawhi Leonard. That's ridiculous.
For anyone on this earth to think that a team will be better without Kawhi on it than if he is on it, that's nuts if you ask me. I mean, come on.
Yeah, but I think it's interesting just because I feel like that could be made an argument just because that the Raptors are playing really well without Kawhi Leonard. But yeah, I don't actually believe that. I said that they'd be really good without him, which they have been. But to say that arguably the best player in the league, a guy who literally won you a finals.
Yeah. Clear MVP.
Yeah, except for Hubie Brown, who voted Fred VanVleet.
Shout out to Hubie Brown.
Shout out to Hubie, but yeah, that one I thought was a little ridiculous, but I thought it's funny. I get a laugh out of saying that out loud. But David, give us another terrible take right now.
All right, the next terrible take, and I was probably on this more so going into this season, not at the moment. A lot of people, including myself, were saying, oh yeah, the Phoenix Suns are the worst team in basketball. They suck. They can't get it together. Well, the Suns are doing really well this year. Seems like everyone was wrong about that. It's a pretty bad take. I know it's still really early, but look at the Suns and what they're doing right now. Devin Booker is playing like as Stephen A. Smith would say, a bona fide superstar. And even without their first overall draft pick from last year, DeAndre Ayton, they're looking really good.
I'll say this, David. I appreciate the humility from that statement. And yeah, I don't think there's an argument that the Suns are the worst team in the league anymore. Like, that's over. They definitely
that
are.
argument's
in
gone.
fact, you can argue they may make the playoffs this year. That is not out of the realm of possibility as it currently stands. Like, they could get in. I'm not saying they will, but they could.
Yeah, if you told me that about 4 or 5 weeks ago, I would have been mind blown.
Oh,
but
yeah.
It's what you just said is possible.
You know what? They got adults in the room. I think that's what made the difference. They signed guys like Dario Saric, or traded for Dario Saric. They
love him.
They signed Frank Kaminsky. They signed
the tank.
They signed Ricky Rubio. Like, they signed Aaron Baines, who's now all of a sudden like this like cheat code for the Suns. He's probably the best screener in basketball, and now he shoots threes. But yeah, they signed adults, and then their young guys are also contributing as well. Their bench is terrible. Like, when you watch their second unit, especially when Devin Booker's not on the court, it's awful. However, their starting lineup's really good, and getting DeAndre Ayton back will definitely help.
Absolutely. I'm really interested to see where the Suns go from here. If they keep it up, man, that would be really crazy to see. If they make the playoffs, I would love to see that.
Okay, now this is just pure comedy. There's no substance to this one. This is just me trying to make a joke. But all right, here we go. Someone, please give Anthony Bennett a 10-day. All he needs is an opportunity.
Oh my goodness, the infamous Anthony Bennett.
I don't think anyone's saying that, but I feel like that'd be kind of funny. Like,
Hunter, I literally don't know what happened to the guy. I don't know how he went first overall, and I don't understand what his career even became. Like, what can you? I'm speechless. What do you think of Anthony Bennett?
So I don't know if you heard this story, but because when David Griffin got fired by the Cavs and before he got hired by the Pelicans, there was a important time when he was on the job market. He was a free agent, if you will, and he said in an interview that he was the only. So the Cavs, they had like an exec board of who made the first pick, and David Griffin actually voted to pick Victor Oladipo, and all 10 other guys all said, including Dan Gilbert, the owner, said, no, let's take Anthony Bennett.
Oh my
And
goodness.
then to top it off, David Griffin also said, after watching the first summer league practice, he knew he was a bust.
Oh my goodness.
Like, he just knew right away. He's like, yep, this isn't it. That's, wow. Like, imagine, like, taking a guy that early and then basically just feeling right away like, oh no, we messed up.
He might be the worst first overall pick of all time.
It could be.
I mean, Markelle Fultz is still out there. That remains to be seen. Greg Oden, of course, but man, Anthony Bennett.
Like, literally, he didn't even show, like, a glimpse of hope at all. Like, and I just remember that draft. I mean, that was our, our soundbite or in our intro last week, but just everyone was just like, what? Like, he wasn't even projected to go 1. It wasn't like he was the number 1 player and just flamed out. Like, it literally made no sense. Like, no one ever really understood why he went that high.
Hey, well, that's a big reason why the Cavs are the Cavs, and the Cavs cavaliered that day.
Yep, David, cold take of the show right there. So what is your third terrible take right now?
My third terrible take is a Skip Bayless take.
Oh, man, I can't wait for this.
Always gives, and it's about your Lakers. So lately, a lot, he's been pounding the table saying Kyle Kuzma is the closer for the Los Angeles Lakers.
Yeah, he's been saying that. I was like, I saw him say, I was like, what?
Yeah, so Kyle Kuzma can certainly close a game, but look who else they have. I mean, come on. They have LeBron James, first of all. That is, in and of itself, that's enough. You look at, people are always like, oh, Michael Jordan's a better closer than LeBron. Look at the numbers and then come back to me. Because LeBron actually has better percentages in go-ahead baskets in late situations.
Oh, man, the Michael Jordan truthers are not going to be happy with you.
I know, they're going to be mad at me, but it's fine. You look at Anthony Davis. He's Anthony Davis. He's a top probably 5 player on the planet. He can close a game, absolutely. Danny Green, one of the best shooters there is in this league today, has the record for the finals. 2013 finals.
I think Curry shattered that record, but he did have it.
Yeah, Danny Green did once have that record for most 3-pointers made in a finals in the 2013
Shout out Long
finals.
Island, represent.
Yeah, so there's plenty of guys on this team who are able to close a game other than Kyle Kuzma. Skip Bayless is simply a hater.
Yeah, he just hates LeBron. Like, let's just face it.
That's right.
He just wants to piss off Shannon Sharp. But I will say this, though. Can Kuzma hit big shots late in games? Because LeBron is a guy who will pass the ball, in late games to a guy that he can trust. Can he trust Kyle Kuzma to hit shots late in games? I think the answer to that is yes. I think Kyle Kuzma's fearless. He doesn't care. He's going to take the shots if he's open. And he's shown that he can make them. However, to say that he's the closer on this team...
He's unproven.
...is ridiculous. You got a guy, 2 Hall of Famers, in my opinion, and LeBron and Anthony Davis on that team, who are still... basically in their primes. AD, I'd say, is in his prime. LeBron, I'd still say in his prime. He's still playing at an all-star elite level. So, I mean, that's a little ridiculous.
Yeah, and Kyle Kuzma is probably younger than me or my age. I like what I see from him, but he's unproven, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, I don't agree with that take at all from Skip Bayless. I think he's just trying to boost up his ratings or something. I don't know. And again, get a reaction out of Shannon Sharp.
It really got my blood boiling, I gotta say.
Now, next up, my terrible take. I think it's a terrible take, but I'm sure Timberwolves fans are going to be a little pissed off when I say it. Andrew Wiggins will live up to his contract this year.
Absolutely not.
I feel like there's definitely those NBA fans out there oh, look what he's doing right now. Do you understand?
Yeah, it's November.
He gets paid more than Karl Anthony Towns does.
He gets paid more than a lot of guys in this league.
Yeah.
And it's November. Let's keep that in mind.
Yeah, look, can Andrew Wiggins improve on this year? Yes. However... I mean, come on, man. This dude he does this every year. He gets off, he has these stretches where he plays really well. I need to see it on a consistent basis, and by no means do I really think that this guy is really going to end up living up to the contract because he's getting paid a lot of moolah.
Yeah, he's really overpaid. I mean, he would have to take this team deep into the playoffs for him to live up to his contract.
Yeah, I mean, the only reason I said this one is because I know it's going to piss people off. People are going to be like, people probably believe that, oh, Andrew Wiggins looks so good. Look at the numbers. But, I mean, come on. I don't really know if he's keeping it up for 82 games of the season. Maybe he does. He's talented enough to do it. I've never questioned that. But it's can he actually put in the work to do it? I need to see it. I'm going to be critical when I have to. But last but not least, David, we've been looking forward to this one for a while. We always do our All-NBA teams. We got the All-NBA Dark Alley team. So each of us, we give 5 players who we think that you don't want to get in a fight with these guys. You don't want to see them in a dark alley because they definitely are going to put in that work, if you will. 5 of the toughest dudes in the NBA. So, David, who made the list for you?
So my 5 guys, I actually fit them into a lineup.
I kind of did too, weirdly.
I kind of did, yeah. So guess we'll start at the point guard position. Do you want to go back and forth, or should I just name my 5 guys?
We'll go back and forth. Why not?
All right, so my point guard, who I'm taking into a dark alley with me, just in case something happens to me or I get attacked, it's Russell Westbrook. I mean, come on.
He was right there on my list, but yeah.
Yeah, the dude is crazy. He's fearless.
He's crazy.
He's totally fearless. Even now that he's, quote unquote, more mature, he's in his 30s now. But
He's got kids to feed.
I forget who it was who didn't dap him up and left him hanging a couple years ago when he was on the Thunder.
Is that Terrence Ferguson?
It might have been, but the way Russ instantly got in his face was just amazing, honestly. And I don't think Russ fears anybody. He's absolutely ferocious.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. He plays with no fear, which is a lot of fun to watch. The reason I didn't put him on my list because I was like, I don't want to put too many star players on my list,
right,
per se. So I didn't put him on, but he definitely does deserve, to be in that consideration for sure. My point guard, if you will, is Marcus Smart.
Okay.
He's big. He's 6'4", 225, 230. That's not a small man at all.
I almost put him on my list.
He flops a lot. He even coined himself the flopper. I don't know what he said. He's like, I'm the king of flopping on defense. Harden's the king of flopping on offense.
Yeah, that whole thing is probably what kept him off my list.
Yeah, but he's a tough dude. He's willing to get in there, do the dirty work, and yeah, he's a big dude that. He's not afraid of anybody. He'll guard anybody. He'll talk trash. He punched a Texas Tech fan.
Oh my gosh!
When he was in college.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, so.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, that's my justification right there. Enough said. On to the next one, David.
All right, so my shooting guard on my All-NBA Dark Alley team. Every time I say it, it's funny. I got DeMar DeRozan on this one.
That's a good pick.
He hasn't really had any crazy outbursts in an NBA game. But as the old saying says, it's always the quiet ones. And this dude I would not mess with DeMar DeRozan. And it's not just because he's from Compton. I mean, a lot of guys are from Compton. But, man, there's just something about DeMar DeRozan. I would not cross him or he would make sure bad things happen to me. So I'm taking DeMar DeRozan as my shooting guard into the dark alley with me.
That's a quiet pick right there. Very, very sneaky one. Definitely, yeah, DeMar DeRozan's definitely a tough dude. He definitely does not back down to no man. Now, a guy who I have on my list definitely does not back down. He's very loud. Gets in your face. He literally took the second stringers in practice and beat the first stringers. I put Jimmy Butler. This man was homeless, all right?
That's right.
He literally was homeless as a teenager. Got kicked out of his house, ends up being a 2-star or whatever out of Texas, goes to Marquette, very underrated, goes in the first round. He always puts in the work, works harder than everybody else. He's gone in multiple fights, if you will, in NBA games as well. He's not afraid to speak his mind, not afraid to step up for his players either, which I respect.
He's big and strong, too.
Yeah, and Jimmy Butler is a guy who I definitely would want on my Dark Alley team because, yeah, he just doesn't care. He'll do whatever it takes to win, and, he's so competitive as well.
That's right. I love Jimmy Butler and everything he brings. That intensity is for real. So another guy, and he's a point guard, but since he's 6'10", I think it's fair that I put him as my small forward on my Dark Alley team.
Man.
So I picked Ben Simmons for this one because after seeing him just willingly choke out Karl Anthony Towns and throw him in a headlock just on sight,
and
just
get away
instinctually, was enough for me. Ben Simmons clearly shows that he does not care. He is not afraid to get into an altercation, and he's big and strong, so I would certainly not mess with Ben Simmons, taking him into the dark alley with me.
Yeah, taking him into the alley. Pretty good. Now, this guy, when I made this list, he was the absolute first name I thought of, mainly because I think he's the only player in the NBA who has a black belt, and that's James Johnson.
Oh,
this
wow,
dude
I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah, he knows, jiu-jitsu, he knows all that stuff.
Oh, man.
Number one rule of fighting, don't get in a fight with somebody who knows all that karate stuff. If you do, you're probably screwed because they're going to pull off some things that you will never seen before. Also, James Johnson, he will step up for himself as well. Yeah, James Johnson had to make the list really for that reason because I think every player is I'm not messing with that guy.
Yeah, especially after hearing that. I mean, I wasn't going to mess with him in the first place, but after hearing that, wow. I might take James Johnson over anybody in the NBA into a dark alley if he has those kind of expertise.
Oh man, if he has nunchucks, forget about it. It's over.
Oh man. Yeah, so might not make it out of that alley alive for anyone who's messing with you. At the 4, I have Mr. Serge Ibaka. This guy is crazy. I
forgot to say, he also made my list.
Yeah, so me and Hunter both have Serge Ibaka on our list. I think it was last year when he was on, well, he's still on Toronto. When Marcus Chris was on the Cleveland Cavs.
Oh, God.
Look, I've never seen a 6'10" or however tall Marcus Chris is guy run away from another guy the way he did. So I don't know what Chris did to him or said to him beforehand, but the way Serge Ibaka was swinging at him and chasing him was like nothing I've ever seen. So if there's a 6'10" or 11 guy in that alley, I would definitely put Serge Ibaka on him because Serge is fearless and crazy.
Yeah, he's fearless. He has his own show where he makes his guests eat like probably the grossest things I've ever seen in my life.
That's right.
And he probably eats it on like a normal day. So he's definitely tough in that sense that he'll actually eat like, I don't know, crickets and crazy like pig intestines, like
snakes.
Yeah, oh my God. But also the fact that I was watching so Danny Green, he had a podcast. I think he has it now still, but it's called Inside the Green Room. Great name. Ironically, he had Kyle Kuzma on it last year, which is funny because they're teammates now. And it was right. Serge Ibaka was suspended during that time, and they were playing the Lakers. And Danny Green and Kyle Kuzma were like, yeah, I wouldn't mess with a dude from the Congo. I agree.
Never.
Yeah, he's probably... I wouldn't either. Serge Ibaka, also, he's been through a lot in life, too. He's got a really interesting backstory. But, yeah, Serge Ibaka is a really tough dude. Don't question him at all. I'd definitely taking him into the alley with me. So, and David would too. So, David, last but not least, who's the anchor of the defense here for your team?
So, my big man, who I have at the 5 on my All-NBA Dark Alley team, the other two guys were former Thunder players, but I have Steven Adams.
So do I. Oh, my God.
Oh, my goodness. So, we both have Serge Ibaka and Steven Adams. What a front court that was.
Oh, man.
But, yeah, I have to go with Steven Adams here. I don't think he's that, like, mean, I guess you could say, or he'll, like, just attack someone unannounced, but if I've seen this dude get elbowed in the face, like, so hard, not even phased. He is a machine, and I've also heard multiple accounts saying that, no doubt about it, Steven Adams is the strongest guy in the NBA, and I believe it. I mean, I would certainly want him not only as my Dark Alley teammate, but just my teammate in general.
Yeah, Steven Adams is really beloved by the Thunder, both the team and the community. And yeah, he doesn't get in fights and anything, but I think it's mainly because guys are like...
no one wants to mess with him.
No, not getting involved with that. I think guys just respect him so much that they're like, yeah, no, not getting in a fight there. Not
also,
happening.
Look at the physical transformation he's made.
Oh, my God,
He came into the league looking like, I don't know, some high school kid with like some short haircut, no beard. Now he looks like a
Aquaman?
scary version of Aquaman, I was going to say. So, yeah, man, he's got all those tattoos now. I'm not messing with Steven Adams.
Yeah, Jason Mimosa. Just kidding. That's not actually his name. That's an inside joke. If my mom's listening, she'll know. But, yeah, so, yeah, I completely agree with your team, 100%. We had 2 picks exactly the same. I would take any of those guys in a fight if need be, if I need some backup. They'd be pretty good backup. Probably the fight doesn't even occur if that's the case. But, yep, that's going to wrap it up here for Ball Don't Lie. I just want to say this. So, we're recording on Friday because David here is right now having his Game 6 Michael Jordan performance right here in the building. He has been sick all week. Nevertheless, though, he never gives up on the pod. Always shows up prepared, ready for game time as well. And I gotta applaud David right here because not many people would do that. So I all props to David right now for this amazing performance. Game 6, you know what it is.
Hunter, you are too kind. It's still unclear and a mystery where I got food poisoning from, but I'm feeling better now, and I had to make it here for the Ball Don't Lie podcast, where no team at all gets left behind.
Not one?
No teams get left behind. No teams.
Oh, man, yep, definitely. This will probably be our second to last podcast, at least before the break, if we have one next week as well. Just want to thank all of you for listening, the truthers out there on the Ball Don't Lie podcast. We appreciate it a ton. All the love and support means the world to us, as you know, we've delved into our 7th episode.
Hard to believe it's already been 7 of them.
Hard to believe, but you know, it's been what a journey. So just want to thank you guys for watching, and be sure to check us out on the tube as well.
Thank you for watching our latest edition of Penn State Sports Night. If you're a fan of our content, please be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more clips. Also follow us on Twitter at PSSNTV and on Instagram at PSU Sports Night to keep up with the action. For all my colleagues, we are Penn State Sports Night.